physical action. The attorney for the applicant is not here, so we decided to continue anyway. First up is the petition to amend the comprehensive community plan future land use map and amendment to the zoning ordinance and map. Render a decision regarding the amendment to the Hopkinton comprehensive plan future land use map and the amendment to the Hopkinton zoning ordinance and zoning map filed by Solar EG LLC, a wholly owned subsidiary of Clearway Energy Group, 205 Hudson Street, 740 North New York, Road 13, and Edward M. Calatezza, 336 Woodville Road, Hopkinton, Rhode Island, 2833, with Solar EG LLC as lessee for a portion of the property located at 336 Woodville Road, identified as Assessors Plat 8, Block 36, in R5 zone. Council?
I'd like to make a motion. I move that we deny to amend the comprehensive community plan future land use map and deny an amendment to the zoning ordinance and map to the filed by Solar EG LLC, a wholly owned subsidiary of Clearway Energy Group.
Second. Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion from the council?
I would just say that this has been decided by us on January 22nd when we amended the ordinance to get a handle on solar. The planning board had leeway to let us know when that ordinance would be, where they have leeway to allow any solar project in a residential area if they find that it has merit. We did not, and I cannot support it.
Scott?
Chairman. And then I'll speak. Thank you.
The proposed Carapezza Solar Project challenges our January 22nd, 2019 non-residential photovoltaic solar energy systems ordinance in several ways. The location is at first glance far more favorable than any of the other projects that have been brought before me. The site of the panels would not be directly adjacent to hundreds of residents' homes. Unless you consider the view from I-95, the panel site would likely not be readily visible to the public. The panel site would be adjacent to property currently zoned commercial. But there are other factors which must also be considered, and despite much thought, I still find them troubling. First, the planned access to the site means constructing a road out of the current path through the wetlands on the property. Aside from any objections by neighbors, I am concerned by the evidence that the appropriateness of the current path is under dispute with the DEM and Forest Service. It is not for me to say that this dispute should or should not have been resolved before becoming even a small part of these deliberations, but it is a fact that this situation did not have to be. So, if the DEM and the Forest Service have or had problems with what's there now, how will the council's approval of improving the path into a permanent road improve things? I would have liked to have seen written evidence presented that the proposed access road would receive DEM's and the Forest Service's blessings before the stream and the associated wetlands are disturbed to support the road. Second, the applicant's property is currently zoned residential. Approval of the project would require a zoning change to commercial. This is an even more serious issue for me than for previous projects because the applicant maintains a residence on the property and wishes to remain. Accepting this proposal means agreeing to a proposal for split zoning of a single parcel. How can we do this without opening the floodgates for applicants who wish similar and, in my view, special consideration? Third, under the current solar ordinance, the proposed site, all 197 acres of it, is eligible for a maximum of 3 acres of solar panels. The applicant's split zoning proposal would place approximately 26 acres of panels on approximately 51.8 acres of land and leave the remainder as residential. Doing this would mean violating our solar ordinance with the very first project to be considered under it. Nothing I have heard or seen during these proceedings has convinced me that this is a good idea. Therefore, I cannot approve the current present project's comprehensive plan amendment and zone change request. I vote no. Respectfully submitted, Sharon Reeves.
I'm going to vote no, and I really think that it's very important. Now, the rhetoric that somebody comes before a government body like the town council, but the actual respect to community and town council. And Mr. Carapezza has had numerous violations, and I don't have confidence that even if this were to be granted, that we could trust him to fulfill those promises. I mean, you have to take into consideration some of these track records of violations of environmental things and things of that nature. In addition to that, I think Councilor Davis, and I congratulate you, Sharon, you do quite a thoughtful presentation on your views. I don't think this is in the best interest of the town of Hopkinton. I don't think the public supports it, and I'd just like to say I'm a little tired of the arrogance in delays, and also the lawyer for Mr. Carapezza being late. This town council should demand respect, and in addition to that, the people of this town should demand respect. And that's all I have to say. I'm going to proudly vote no on this one. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the lawyer for the petitioner couldn't be here, but I'm in his place.
Well, when are you going to tell us this? You've been here since before I got here.
Well, I did, I'm sorry, I apologize. But yeah, Thomas Al, but we're just resting on what was said in September. We're not adding it.
No, I realize that, but I've been waiting for a representative from Mr. Landry's office, or him.
He won't be here, no, I'm sorry.
I just want to say for the record, I'm not impressed by a lawyer representing somebody that's for the town council and they don't identify themselves. I think that's unprofessional. I do. Thank you.
Barbara?
I originally served the town of Hopkinton as chair of the Economic Development Commission 10 years ago. We wrote the ordinance preventing unexpected businesses in any commercial area in Hopkinton, brought it to the town council, who passed it. Commissions can organize research and write ordinances that represent their commission's purpose. Please apply. This is exactly the kind of project that should be addressed and recommended by the EDC. Hopkinton has over 36,000 acres of land area. Only 72 acres are established as commercial or manufacturing, which severely impedes our ability to bring tax relief and stabilization to our citizens. Most of our land is R1, residential, or R80, farm, forest, and open space. To increase commercial acreage means changing our zoning to decrease all of our acreage. For those of you who feel this should never be allowed, it strangles our municipal budget, damages our school system, inhibits jobs from being created, and prevents your own children and others from finding work in our town environments. The Carapezza property is uniquely situated to access the provision in our zoning regulations to encourage commercial development by using the method of a split zone, to allow the frontage to remain on Woodville Road to the south and east, allowing the back portion which abuts Route 95 on the west and a large commercial parcel to the north to become commercial. The tax ramifications, both the underlying land assessment and the energy taxation, are profitable for the municipality. The additional renewable energy is beneficial to the town and the state. Additional land trust monies strengthen our rural conservancy measures. The planning board is not an environmental agency. It is responsible for the entire welfare and planning of the town, which means jobs, professions, careers, households, schools, institutional growth, development, energy, expansion of commercial manufacturing, and land trust acreage. Effectively working with the other commissions, municipal employees, and the council, it establishes and assists with changes through the decades for the betterment of all of our citizens. The project still has issues to work out with the Department of Environmental Management, the Planning Board, Zoning Board, other state agencies, and the town itself. These can be addressed and resolved. They are not unmanageable or appalling. Humans have done wetland crossings since before Hannibal crossed the Alps, and trees have been cut down for fields, pastures, and agriculture since the beginning of time. Our comprehensive plan urges us to find and create more areas for economic development. This is a good fit. It is not acres of parking blacktop, three-story buildings, racetracks, or big boxes. I am for this project. It is in a very good location, and it is exactly what we need when we look at our entire town and say, where can we put commercial acreage? I vote against the proposal.
Against the motion.
Next up is me. This particular project was submitted, I think, about three months after the ordinance was changed. I think Sylvia had said it was January 22nd. So I supported the amendment to the PSES ordinance, limiting the overall exposure to 3% of 3 acres, which is less. This was submitted after that. I'm not willing to go back on my word because I supported that reduction. So I will not support that on those grounds. If it had been submitted prior to, who knows, I probably would have approved it perhaps, but now that we've changed the ordinance, I am not willing to do that based on my vote for that reduction. So that's that. So, Sylvia, if you want to, I know you made a motion, Scott seconded. So all those in favor of not supporting the project to approve the comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment, and a zoning amendment to the zoning ordinance map, signify by saying yes.
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 All those that don't agree with that, vote by saying no.
No.
Okay, so motion carries 4-1. Just, let's see, it's 7:02, I guess. Maybe just a couple of minutes, folks, before we start the hearing on the new applicant. Okay, just give me about 3 minutes or so, okay? Thank you. Okay, folks. I'll open up the hearing. Folks, we'll open the hearing for petition for comprehensive plan and zoning amendments. Continue a hearing to consider an amendment to the Hopkinton zoning ordinance and Hopkinton comprehensive plan future land use map filed by Atlantic Solar LLC, 260 West Exchange Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 2903, and Atlantic Control Systems, 318 Dry Bridge Road, North Kingstown, Rhode Island, 12865 times. Landowner property located at 0 Main Street, identified as Plat 7, Lot 32, Plat 10, Lot 87, Plat 11, Lot 35, and RFA zone regularly scheduled for hearing on November 19th, 2018. No hearing held and continued to January 14th, 2019. No hearing held and continued to April 15th, 2019. No hearing held and continued to May 28th, 2019. No hearing held and continued to June 10th, 2019. No hearing held and the matter was rescheduled on July 15th, 2019 to October 28th, 2019. The applicants propose to install a ground-mounted photovoltaic solar array on the existing 29.7-acre property listed as Assessor's Plat 7, Lot 32, Plat 10, Lot 87, Plat 11, Lot 35, to construct a ground-mounted solar array on the property. The proposal to utilize the property will require approval of proposed comprehensive plan future land use map amendment from RFR 80 to commercial special, and a zoning map amendment from RFR 80 to commercial special. Applicants present?
Yes, Mr. President, Robert Craig, I represent Atlantic Solar and Energy Development Partners that are engaged in this project. I believe we had a little bit of testimony back in June.
Yep.
And then there was far more questions than answers. And the matter was continued a few times for us to engage in a number of tasks, which I hope will be addressed tonight to the satisfaction of the members of the council that have this question. My first witness will be Frank Epps. Frank is the project manager of this particular matter. Frank, you ready?
Thanks.
Mr. President, members of the board, my name is Frank Epps. I am the principal of Energy Development Partners and one of the two project managers for this project in question. What I've done is to provide you with a binder that has some of the maps that you have already received, but just in case for reference as we go through the presentation. I've already given one to Councilor Kamala, but I have it here just in case you.
Yeah, maybe give it to the clerk.
And also, for your information, as we have provided in the past, this is a binder with the same information in it. However, it also has information concerning, as we have presented in the past, information related to the safety of the products, the economic benefits of distributed power, and other information as well.
Yeah, maybe Frank, use the mic, text the mic.
Along with the information package that I just sent, that we just distributed to you, which is just an information package that contains the maps, if you will, and the forester's evaluation of the land and project inside the white binders that we distributed. There is an additional binder here, and it's the same information that was just provided to you in the past, but it also contains information concerning not only the plans relative to the project, the forestry information that you have in the white binders, but this also has the information related to the safety of the products and also the economic benefit and the distributed generation power information that was previously distributed to the council on the double project. And so it's a single binder. I'll just get this to the clerk as well.
Okay, thanks.
The role of Energy Development Partners in this project is a bit different than the last time that I had the pleasure of being in front of you. Energy Development Partners is the applicant only here. We are not the landowner as we are in other projects. The landowner is Atlantic Control Systems. They are a commercial and residential developer who owns the property. They contacted us and asked us to provide information, if possible, alternatives to the development for the site itself, and hired us to be the developer of the project. I have with me today Alan Benavides from Liberty civil engineer. And also I have my colleague, Mr. John Schrader, who is also the project manager of the project itself. And I was going to turn it over to Mr. Benavides and Mr. Schrader at this time. And Mr. Schrader and I are here to answer any and all the questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Alan Benavides. I'm from Woodard and Curran, previously testimony before the council. So what
You're going to have to grab that.
is it not working?
See if that's on.
It's,
Grab it and hold it in your hands.
Yeah, turn it up, I can't hear it all.
Bill, can we turn that system up just a little bit, please? Can you turn the system up? We're going to turn it up a little bit.
now, is that better?
Is that better?
Yeah. See, I'm going to just have to turn it up just.
Okay, sure. Testing? Seems better. Yeah, great. Okay.
It's okay.
You need to be sworn in.
Put your hand out.
Alan.
As long as we have the testimony you're about to give,
Yes, it is. Alan Benavides. So, what I'll be talking about tonight was testimony previously regarding the project. On Thursday, there were three plans that we provided to the council that we think helped address some of the questions that came up the last time. What I'll do is I'll present an overview of what those boards show, and then certainly as the night goes on, I'll be happy to answer any questions regarding, but I just want to at least help you understand what these new boards show. So the first one is the one that's currently shown up on the easel. And it's hard to see from any distance, but to give you an overview of that. So the solar array is shown right here, and property boundary is shown here, and the green is the wooded area, so what's going to remain is wooded. A couple of things to touch on this. The first thing is, previously, the plans that were submitted were based upon Rhode Island GIS wetlands, so generally fairly accurate, but what we've done since that original submittal is the applicant has had the wetlands surveyed. So what you see on the drawings that we've now submitted, and you can't see it on this one, but other drawings that the commission, the council has, is that the panels are now based upon actual wetland location rather than proximate location. So that's one of the changes that we've made. The second thing is, and I'm sure Councilor Craven can describe it more, one of the issues that came up previously were concerns regarding buffering. And is one of the changes that you'll see is this parcel right here. And it goes down like this, up like this, and across. This is part of parcel Plat 10, Lot 83, and 3.74 acres of that parcel are now going to be part of this project. Councilor Craven can describe the sort of legal process regarding that, but this is now being incorporated into the solar project. You'll see panels are now being provided here, but what it does do is we're now having the buffering rather than having this beam that's coming down. I think that was some of the concerns that were brought up previously. So that's a change from the previous. The last thing to point out on this drawing is there's a summary for each of the properties regarding clearing. And over on the right-hand side, and again, you should have copies of these. Over on the right-hand side is a summary. And to touch on what the totals are for the entirety of the property, the entire lot with this V is now approximately 33 acres. approximately 18.5 acres are proposed for clearing of that total, and approximately 44% of the property will remain wooded. So the green area that you see will remain wooded, so it's approximately 44%. So those totals in this map is one of the new things that we've submitted. Well, I'll end on that. Frank, could you put up the aerial photo? So this is a little more difficult to see from far away, but essentially Main Street here, Route 95 right here. And what this shows is the parcel, all the parcel IDs. Essentially, when we were here previously before the council, questions came up regarding the names of the street, questions came up regarding the identification of the parcels, and questions came up regarding the distances between the panels, which are shown right in here, and all the abutting homes. So we put together essentially the exact same drawing. What it shows is all of those, that information that I just described. Certainly if there's questions as we move forward, I can answer them, but this essentially provides all the information in a single drawing distances. I spent several site visits out here. I was also out here today before the meeting. So, I know some of the questions came up regarding Route 95, which we'll get to in a second, as well as about it. So, very familiar with this and certainly can answer any questions that might come up from the council. The third board, Frank, if you could put that one up. A little bit. So this one again, difficult to see from the audience. The council should have copies of each of the three of these. What this shows is a cross-section that we took through where the array is going to be located or proposed to be located. And underneath it, we drew a cross-section. I think there were questions that came up regarding Route 95, visibility of the project. So what we show here is a cross-section that starts at Route 95 here, shows the topography along here, and what it shows is the area. So there's approximately of just vegetation. You can see the entirety of the distance. I need to go up to get the others, but there's 115 feet of very thick wooded area occurring in here, but the distance of that from here to the panel is even greater. You can see those numbers on what we submitted to you, and what we've got over here is what this is based on Street View of Google Earth. Again, I just walked this afternoon. It's a very accurate representation of what's there to show the specifics here. So that's the new information that we provided to the council based upon what we heard at last meeting. Certainly, at any point, can answer questions regarding any one of these boards should they come up from the council. So, I don't know, Bob, do you want to?
Okay, any questions from Mr. Benavides, council?
Yes.
Yes, President.
Just like we did at the last hearing, we want to do tonight. And one of the things that we all want to know is, for instance, property line of the abutters to the panel. What is the closest distance of an abutter's property line to a panel? What's the closest? And which property is it?
Is it okay to speak from here? Can you hear me?
The audience here?
No.
Alan, this is going to be a
So to answer that question is right here, and from the panel to the property line is approximately 125 feet, and then we have distances to the house as well.
Can you
And which
identify?
property is that?
Property line. Property line.
34A, 34B, and 34D.
Could you repeat that?
34A, 34B, 34D.
Thank you.
Okay, Sylvia,
Yes.
I'm still not clear which one is closer. Can you identify like flat lot?
Yes. So those are the plat lots, so they're all plat 11, lot 34A, lot 34B, lot 34D. So all the numbers I gave you were preceded with plat 11.
In addition, originally, let's see, I believe you moved the inverter, well, let me start from here. What is the distance? It's plat 10, lot 86. What is the distance from their property line now to the inverters?
Sylvia, did you say 85 or 86?
It's 86. Plat 10, 86. Originally, it was 82 feet. And originally, it was 60 feet to the poles.
Approximately 60 feet.
It's now less. To make sure I'm talking about the same thing, I'm talking about the electrical connection.
Yes, I understand.
Oh, okay, right.
So to answer your question, first of all, on the design itself, we are no longer using central inverters in this design. Central inverters are large pieces of equipment that sit on inverter pads, either at the place for the interconnection or throughout the project itself. In this project, we're using string inverters. String inverters are approximately 3 feet by 3 feet in dimension, and they hang off of the racking in back of the panels. We have pictures of these string inverters for you. And so therefore, on this pad, that is going to be the area where the point of interconnection is taking place, there will be a switch here and a transformer. So two pieces of equipment, along with a weather station and where the interconnection, or I should say the internet connection for communication comes in from the system itself. So in other words, two pieces of equipment on the pad along with the electrical panels and so on. But the inverters are now within the project area itself and not on that pad itself. You asked for the interconnection itself. From the pad, there will be 4 poles. These 4 poles will have the access road, and then the tap to the interconnection itself will happen directly on Route 3, but the 4 poles will be on the property, on the access road itself. And if we could do it underground, we would love to do it underground, but the utility does not allow us to do it.
So what is the distance to this pad?
Yeah, so what the plans currently show is 60 feet.
Okay. Is this pad being configured different from the last year? Was it going to be done differently last time?
Yes, it was actually. The pad itself was going to have inverters, an inverter system on it itself, a very large inverter. So now the pad is reduced in size and actual footprint to take away from the central inverter that was going to be close.
Okay, thank you.
Sylvia?
You also provided a diagram in reference to 95 and the slope and the forest that's in between.
Correct.
What about, one of the things that came up from the residents or the abutters last time, at the last hearing was if you're standing, let's say you're in the, you're one of the abutters, you're near Route 3, and it slopes down. I noticed that you had in your diagram, it showed that the slope, there was you showed trees, you showed 95, you showed the slope, and you showed how for instance, the panels, I'm just going to look at the diagram, the elevation was around 216 feet, and then it sloped gently down toward 95.
Correct.
But you also showed where it ticked up, and the number was 220, and I didn't know if that was to your property line. So I'm curious about the slope to Route 3, and are those houses going to be able to see those panels because they're at a higher level? Or is Route 3 going to be able to see the panels because it's sloped up higher?
There's a small elevation change between Route 3 and where those panels are, and there's 115 feet of woods. It is fairly dense woods. I walked it today. So from what I can see, I don't see those panels being visible from Route 95. So that's, I think, the latter question. I'm not sure if I understood the first question.
I'm not concerned about 95, it's Route 3 and what you can see.
Okay, so for Route 3.
And what the elevation is toward Route 3.
1 second. So the drawings that we currently have tonight don't have the topography on Route 3. I've walked the site. The elevations are sloping downward fairly gently. There's not a significant elevation change. I don't have an exact number based upon the drawings that we've got. But I've been out there, I've walked the site. The question is, do I think the properties will see it? The answer is no, with the exception of one property, which is this property right here. So I think this property will
Which
certainly.
is flat lot.
Flat 10, 86.
Thank you.
Anything else, Sylvia?
No.
Okay.
How big is the transformer?
Do you have the dimensions of the actual dimensions of the transformer itself?
Dimensions of also the power.
Yes. I'd like to introduce Mr. John Schrader. He is my colleague at Energy Development Partners. He's also a project developer here, and he can answer your questions specifically.
Yes. My name is John Schrader. I believe the question was how large would the transformers be?
How large is the transformer? Power is more interesting to me than dimension.
It would be 5 MVA total.
5
Yes.
MDA.
MVA. Or megawatt AC.
And is there a particular reason why that transformer pad cannot be moved further south away from lot 86 flat 10? I know it's easier to go straight down, but can it move further south?
Well, as a matter of fact, that is one design change we've done since last time. I appeared before the board. And there are actually 2 transformer pads located here, 2.5 and 2.5, totaling 5 MVA. And then the additional transformer located on the pad will be a grounding transformer.
So you have 3.
Correct. And we have one of the design steps, as I say, with permission since we were last year, is to move the 2 larger transformers into the body of the PD.
Can the 5 MDA, the larger pad, can that move further south, away from that house? And from lot 10, lot 86,
Yes,
so it could move further south.
we can move that. The only piece that would be difficult to move would be the national grid infrastructure, but we can move that transformer.
Because it's only 60 feet,
Yes.
correct, from the house. I think that's a little too close. The other question I have is, let me go backwards. You know, 3 transformers, inverters, or the string inverters on the panels.
Correct. They're on the back side of the panels.
On the map, this one, you show in the legend wetlands, but I do not see any wetlands, and my understanding is that parcel had wetlands.
We'll let Alan speak to that.
Yeah, so I can deal with that. The purpose of putting this additional drawing together was for the purposes of illustrating tree coverage. So, so for the purpose of putting these drawings together it was for helping to clarify how much trees were going to be cleared and where what would remain and what would be cleared. You're correct. You really can't see the wetlands that underlie it. What I can tell you is, number one, there are delineated wetlands. Secondly, we're able to locate these panels where you see them now. The panels are currently both outside of all the wetlands, also outside of all the perimeter buffers. So this project can move forward without any panels and any wetland or buffer zones.
I know that last meeting, one of the things we have requested is that we do a walkthrough.
Yes, I think that'd be a great idea. I would suggest that that the council not vote on this until you've had that opportunity. Prior to debating, why didn't we do it earlier? We were still in the process until the last couple of days of formulating not only how the project would present itself, but more importantly, how a large piece of property belonging to Mr. Yates was actually acquired under purchase and sales to create a greater buffer for the remaining neighborhood.
I definitely think you improve the positions of the inverters and the transformers, except for the one large pad that I think should be quite a bit further from.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree. Any other questions from the council? Bobby, all set?
The only other issue we have with the site visit is that, of course, this is still fall. When we have leaves, our issue will be, of course, in the winter when we don't. So we'll be taking a close look at that.
I think the storm from yesterday took care of a lot of those leaks.
I think 3 more days of rain this week.
Okay, all set, John, you have anything to discuss?
I think you should have something that shows where the wetlands are.
I agree.
Because I can't take your word for it. I have to see it.
Understood.
And you've increased the acreage, so we should be changing that 29.7 acres to 33.
Yes, so everything that's been submitted on the 3 drawings that were just submitted is updated with the appropriate ATs.
Right. We should change the application accordingly.
Okay. Yes.
And I'd like to know how many abutters did you talk to and how many of them are in agreement with this project?
To date, we have spoken to two abutters. The abutters that the properties have been acquired from, to the north of the property and to the small triangle that is down on but we have not approached any of those abutters at this time.
Bill? That's it, John? Bob?
I know,
Mind if she speaks? Go ahead, Bill.
are you still doing the east-west pattern that you discussed at the first planning board meeting? Or have you changed that?
We've changed it to the southern direction orientation from the east-west orientation. And the reason why that has happened is that we have acquired the additional property to the north. And what this does is it does benefit the overall project as to its output. It does not change the technical size of the project itself because that is dictated by our applications with National Grid. However, it does allow for a larger amount of land between the panels for water filtration and for planting of the pollinators.
And now that the existing acreage has changed from 29 to 33, what is the megawatt change?
There is no change in the megawatts at all.
So the total will be
It's approximately 5 megawatts AC, I think 4.97 megawatts AC. That's the original application.
I thought, on the planning department's list of projects, I thought we were talking about 2.46 DC megawatts on 10 acres, is that, that's not you?
No, we was not.
I thought it was. It says Atlantic Solar, I thought that's what it was.
At the planning board meeting that happened, I presented a 5+ megawatt AC, a 4.9 megawatt, excuse me, 5 larger DC system, a 4.97 megawatt AC system on a east-west configuration.
And it was on 10 acres?
I don't believe so.
10.5.
10.5 acres?
That's what it was in the minutes. Hey, folks, come on. Try to help out.
I believe that was the panel coverage.
Was 10 acres?
10.5 acres of the panel coverage.
Well, on this list, it said you were looking for 2.46 DC megawatts. That's what I thought it was.
I did not present a 2.46 megawatt system at the community.
And just one thing to clarify, we do have smaller versions of the drawings. You show the wetlands if you'd like. I can give it to the clerk or pass it to the board.
Where is this written? How many megawatts you're looking for? I'm not sure that I've seen that. I actually had to go back and look at the list of the department, and I thought it was 2.46 DC megawatts on 10 acres. That's what I thought we were looking at.
I'm not sure which document you're looking at, Council.
No, this list.
Yeah, that's not the,
Well, it says Atlantic Solar, and I thought that's the one we're looking at, so if it's not,
it is not.
okay. Where does it say the megawatts in your document?
It's in the application, and I haven't seen the document, the binder that was presented to you tonight, but I presume that it's in there. But the original application does contain the actual size of the power produced by this solar array.
It does or doesn't?
It does.
I'm not, this is 29.7 acres.
That's the total acreage, not the panel coverage.
If it's helpful, the green folder that has to be green folder, do you
I have
guys?
it.
Okay, well,
I just like to know where.
I can tell you where. There's a document that looks like this, Sharon, as part of that folder. Or perhaps it was actually, it wasn't with the original folder, it was a handout. It may have been, I'm not sure how we got it, but there's this document with the front cover, Sharon. And farther in, about 4 pages in, it notes that the total power is 5.3, and I can't read it. It's very small, whether it's megawatt, whether it's AC or DC, but yeah, it's a small number. So I'm not sure what you were looking at, Sharon.
That's it.
Yes,
Page
4 pages in. Didn't bring my magnifying glass.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. I'll take a look. I'll find it.
Okay, who else said?
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Scott's going to go next one. Scott, go ahead.
One thing that really enters my mind, I'm trying to take everything in, is I'd like somebody to address the safety factors in case there was a fire and that type of stuff. And it's probably already been covered, but I think it doesn't matter. Also, when you talk about wetlands, there is always, identify wetlands, but sometimes during a storm, there's certain areas on the property that reflect water, significant amounts of water, so I am concerned about that. And also, I do note the fact that if I understand what's been said in sworn testimony tonight, that only talking to abutters. Is that correct? Did I understand it was more than that? Or did you, other than maybe send a notice, did you talk, what's the extent have you talked to abutters other than sending the required legal notice?
So since I'm here, I'll answer the question regarding wetlands and council. So regarding the wetlands, what we've done is had an expert, who's qualified by Brian to delineate the wetlands. What you talked about was considered when they delineate the wetlands. What I was able to put into testimony shows where those wetlands are, so we're confident where the wetlands are located. And again, our panels are outside the wetlands, outside the buffer zones. That said, as part of the project, hopefully moving forward, this also has to be reviewed by Brian as well. So that process is ongoing. I'm confident with our expert, but there is a concurrent process with the town regarding those wetlands and what you spoke about were considered by our expert.
Once again, to answer your question, the project contacted 2 abutters. And the contacts were considering the use and/or the purchase of their properties to expand the areas around to the north, that one little triangle, and then to the south, the triangle. In fact, they contacted us. The little triangle that is an extension of what I understand, a piece of property that was from the other side of Route 95 that was left over. In fact, that owner contacted me personally, asking whether or not we would be interested, or the landowner itself would be interested in purchasing that property. And we do have an associate here who has, I understand, talked to another owner or 2. However, I did not talk to those other owners.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
If you can move the transformer further south, can you also move the access road further south, which would give your buffer 86?
So right now, the access road itself comes off of Route 3, comes down, goes off to the south of it, and then comes into the solar facility itself. To move it down, to move it south, I would love to find a way to accommodate you, but I don't understand what you're actually asking. So
What I'm asking is the transformer, the large package, where the transformer will be,
yes,
if that can move further south, away from lot 86
we could.
to 10, if it moves further south, what I'm hoping you might be able to do is move the access road further south as well, so that the buffering on that piece of property can become all woodland, all the way around,
Okay.
rather than having it right on their line with the clearing, so that it could move down.
Are you looking for it to move further here so that that way there would be buffering in here?
Correct.
So,
Also to keep the transformer, which if anything has noise, the transformer, to keep the sound and the buffering further to the south.
what I can say is that we can move it. Our goal is with these projects to stay outside of wetlands, stay outside of buffer zones. So we can certainly move it so it's 50.1 feet from the wetland that's located there. So we can move it a little bit further south to provide some level of buffering there, but we are constrained by the 50-foot corridor. But yes, but as much as we can maintain 50.1 feet off there to be consistent with private building.
That would be helpful for the site visit.
Okay.
To address your other concern, I just spoke with Mr. Schrader, who's more of my technical expert on these projects than I am. And I asked him whether or not we could take the transformer path, because the inverters now have been changed to string inverters, and move it within the panel area itself. And the answer is yes, we can do that. So what we would be doing then is taking the pad, moving it into the panel area, trying to work out some level of way to make sure that we have access between the panels. And then what we would need to do is then we can go underground with, from the pad itself to the area of the access, to a certain area of the access road. Now we can do that because we're not, when we're at that point, we're not under the jurisdiction of the utility. So what we would do is we would go underground from inside the pad to a pole, and then have the riser pole there, one of the 4 poles. We might have to add a 5th pole because of the distance now, but that I can show on the revised plan during our site walk or so on. But we can do that, have another pole here, and then come out. But there's going to be a minimum of 4 poles. And if I do go underground and up, depending on how far I can go underground, up the road, there might be 1 additional pole put in place.
I'm more concerned with the sound of the transformer.
Right. So again, we will now revise this to move the pad itself down to the east, if you will, of the project, and within the project area itself, and within the fence line, inside the fence line.
Thank you.
Just to echo what Scott had said about only 2 abutters being notified or spoken to. From this map, it looks like, let me just back up, Frank, if you know which butters we're spoken to, I guess identify by plat now, please.
It would be plat 10, number 84, and plat 7, number 33, I believe. And I'm looking for confirmation that those are, that is the one plat that we spoke of, and I just got confirmation of it.
Plat 10, lot 84.
Plat 10, 84, and then plat 7, lot 33. And
I don't see.
Mr. Chairman, this right here, and this corner right down here.
Okay. Plat 7, lot 33, plat 10, lot 84.
Yes, sir.
Okay, those are the two, but those were involved in the purchase.
83 was.
No, but it said 84 and 33.
I can speak to you on this, President.
Well, grab the mic just right
Yeah. The purchase and sales agreement I have with Mr. Yates is his property at, right here, portion of
Identify this plat and lot, please.
AP 10, lot 83. He owns 84 as well.
Okay.
Plat 10, 80.
83 and 84.
And,
Yep.
and also you spoke to plat 7, lot 33.
Yeah, this little, here, down by 95.
Is there a reason why you didn't talk to plat 10, lot 86, which is the closest one?
No reason. We were looking, the reason for conversations with the staff at EPA was for purchasing buffer, so that we would be able to buffer this project when we were able to move fast.
All right. So my suggestion would be, folks, if they'll talk to you, you should reach out to them and find out what their concerns are.
Absolutely.
Because you don't get the emails we do.
Right.
So I would talk to plat 10, lot 86, plat 10, lot 82, plat 11, lot 34A, 34B, 34D, and 34E. And find out what they like, don't like.
Absolutely.
Some due diligence, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
And then I certainly wanted to go on that site visit, so to see the elevations from Route 3 and whatnot.
So you'll see before tonight, I think they coordinate the time that's convenient for everybody.
So I need more information before, anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
We'll do our best to, depending on when we schedule it, unless it was this weekend, although Council Paul seems to think it's going to be a bad weather weekend, but we will, I'll speak to them ASAP.
This weekend weather-wise will be good, but I will not be.
Oh.
All right, does the council have any other questions for the applicant or their witnesses? Okay. Comment? I have one question. Go ahead, John.
Is this where the wetlands are, the things on the sides here?
Yes, so
They're not underneath the camp at all?
that's correct. Right. And you can actually, if you look really carefully, probably more carefully, you can see it is shown on the other drawing. It's also shown on this drawing as well. So, yes, but as I said earlier, there are no wetlands located, or the panels are not located in the wetlands, nor are they located within the buffer zone. And to the question earlier, we could pick up maybe 15 feet to move it over.
If you can move it east into the panel, then you're better off. Instead of trying to move it south, moving it east, that is direct from. And then because you avoid this. And I can see it right here. So if you move into the panels, that does,
Right, and certainly during a sidewalk, we can, look at that and more.
Mr. President.
Yeah.
This picture board here, or with the map of the project in the middle, we have an individual here, Mr. Schrader, who is capable of explaining exactly what each one of those photographs mean. And I can tell you generally, without explaining each one, I believe there are 13 in all. What you see from the property line towards each one of these people's houses, 4 and 5. And I think that might be helpful to the council for that.
Yeah, it's just, they're not terribly legible, but,
Well, I thought maybe if we bring it up here.
yeah, try that. If anybody wants to get closer to see it, feel free.
Okay, so briefly what we did is we had the perimeter of the site.
You gotta speak up, Mr.
Sorry.
You might have to turn towards me, because I can't get you back, I'm sorry.
So briefly what we did is we had the perimeter of the site surveyed by a professional engineer, and then we had a member of the EDP team go out to the site and take photographs towards the abutting properties from the property line. So what you're looking at here is the arrows themselves indicate which direction the photographer was looking, and the photograph from the property line towards the adjacent property. So right here, you can see the photographer looking towards AP, I can't read that, I believe it's 7, lot 32, and that's across the wetland. So if you look through the trees, it's not discernible, but you can see a house along through the wetland there. This photograph 1, is looking in this direction as the arrow indicates, and looking towards the roadway, which would be Main Street. Photograph 2 is looking towards the property here. I don't have the AP and lot number in front of me. Excuse me, no, it's AP 10, lot 86. The rest of the photographs are fairly self-explanatory as you move across the property line, heading north and west. We also have photographs looking from, this is from the fence line, looking towards Interstate 95. And I think the best example here is probably photograph 12, looking towards 95, and the highway is barely discernible in the distance.
But wouldn't it be more important to do it the opposite direction? I know you can't see, but I know you haven't cleared it yet, but looking out from where the panels are doesn't mean anything. Really the people, if they're like on the second floor, they would have a different view than on the first floor. And so you need to do it the other way.
Also in the winter.
No. These pictures were taken on Monday of this week. Any further questions on the pictures or methodology?
Any questions? Okay.
I think it's, we're done.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Fraser. All right, next up, public comment.
I just make one
Jim, no. If you want to make a comment, you can come to the mic, please.
No, I don't want to interrupt. He's the counsel for the abutters. I just wanted to point out, you have,
No, I wanted you to come to the.
no, I understand that. No, I just meant, I wanted the preliminary, I didn't want But I just wanted to point out that you have no authority whatsoever to even entertain this to me. They have added, I just found this out this afternoon, they've added another property. The law says, state law, town ordinances, town charter, everything, says that you have to advertise. You have to advertise, you have to give notice. So no one in this town, other than we just heard it right now, knows that there's 1083 is somehow involved. Because it's totally different, the map now is different. You can't just do things because you feel like it. Oh, before we add some properties in there. It has been advertised every single time for 3 lots. It's been noticed with 3 lots, and now you've got 4 lots. You can't do that. Plain and simple, you can ask your council, plain and simple. I noticed it because Eric Bidler took a photograph of the plan today. He just took a photograph and he sent it to me. And I looked at it, and there's a legend on that one that is up there now. And the bottom, it says, this is how much of 1083 is being used and everything. You can't do anything. It's a different project. That project is being presented right now. It's not yet going to planning. It has not been advertised. It has not been noticed. And I am 150% positive of that. And you all know it too. And I've got all the minutes. I've got every minute here. And I have the copies for you if you'd like. But this is absurd. And you're wasting all this time.
I'm going to hear from the abutters that received notice. If any of the abutters, abutters are here, please come to the microphone.
One final thing.
Jim.
What is wrong because you didn't include what is that property.
Abutters will speak now.
It's a no. Keep that in mind. Why don't you ask your solicitor?
Jim, you're out of order.
Why don't you ask your
You're out of
solicitor to stop
order.
wasting these people's time?
Let this president speak. Ma'am, sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. Can you hear me? Because I don't have any experience with the microphone.
Yeah, just keep it close to you.
Okay. I live at 598 Main Street,
What your name is?
Loretta Peach. I've had the property since 1978. I designed and I built my own home in 2004. I did not raise my children here. They did not go to school here. But I have the benefit now of having my own property, my own personal retreat. When we bought the property, they said, it's rural property, nobody will ever build behind you. And now here I am. My property slopes down. The 2010 floods, those wetlands handled all the water that went north and washed out our road at both ends because of that creek in the back. So where's all that water going to go when they change the topography of the land? I am against this. I don't want to be looking out my back windows, which is my master bedroom, my living room, face the back because of the woods. I didn't want to face Route 3. So now here I am. I'm 15 years in my own home, living peacefully, and people are doing whatever they want to do. When I wanted to change wetlands, the civil engineer told me if I changed anything, I had to replace the trees that I took down, that I had to modify the wetland, but repair it and keep it the way it is. And you can't tell me that you know where the wetlands are when I have wetlands coming up into my yard, not just down below where the wet area might be. It expands with the seasons. And then you're going to put solar panels in there. And then what are you going to do? You're going to affect my well water because you're going to spray chemicals to keep everything at bay. And then you're going to put cheap pine trees around the fence in here, like they did down the road at Reynolds Farm. I mean, really, it's not a rural area anymore. I've been very mindful about cutting my trees down because I didn't want to change the environment. I want to keep Hopkinton rural. I think I've said enough. the Underground Railroad system. And I just don't want to deal with this anymore. You're aggravating me to no end. I'm losing sleep over this. So are my neighbors. Please, please, please stop with the solar sprawl until technology can meet up with the environment, and it can look fine. But without this, without sprawling everywhere, with the aerial view of all these solar panels, who's going to be responsible in 20 years when you have to take all those panels down? Where are all those toxins going to go? I didn't want to live next to a power plant. That's all I have to say.
Loretta, which property is yours, the plat lot, you know?
598 Main Street, I don't recall the plot numbers right off the top.
It's 8P11, lot 34A.
Yes, thank you, Cynthia. And if you go by, you see me out in my yard all the time. I'm working constantly on my property. And I can tell you, I've got the Geico plane going across me twice a day, flying this little flag over. I don't like that. I've got the tractor-trailer trucks, they come, not just one at a time. I've got them 3 and 4 in a row at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then you have to deal with the climate change because you're taking down all the trees. I've lived in West Warwick, I've lived in Warwick on the Water, I've lived in Providence. The difference in the temperature from Providence to Warwick to down here, it goes down by 10 degrees each time you move further south. You take down all those trees. I don't have an air conditioner, but now I'm going to have to get an air conditioner and hook it up to electricity because I don't have trees to give me shade.
Thank you. Any other butters? We're going to hear from the butters first. Thank you. Any other butters that received notice here tonight? Please, state your name, address.
It's the third time that I've talked to everybody. I have the same name, John Klossman. I live at 600 Main Street, right next door to Loretta. Everything that she said, I agree. These pictures right here. This is the biggest bunch of crap in the world. Can anyone come to my house, take a walk back there, and want to see these wetlands? Can I just take a look at this right here?
Take your time.
There's still all leaves on those trees. Why don't you wait until they come down for crying out loud? But the wetlands are incredible. Our property slopes down, and when the panels want to go up there, they're going to be seen from 95, they're going to be seen from Route 3. Don't let me tell you that's true, because that's not going to happen. And I told you before, I bought this property, same time probably Loretta did. I was 21 years old. I'm 63 years old right now. Between then and maybe a year ago, I lived in paradise. Now it's a friggin' nightmare. You're killing wildlife. We have the most pristine water probably in our country. And right now, I don't even hardly even get any of the rust in my water. It's so clear. But there's a running stream that runs through there all year. It's right in the back of our house. And this is going to be ruined. I just pray that you guys can realize what's going on here. These are multimillionaires over here. They're going to make their money somewhere else. But please, not behind our house, and then it goes right over into 95. We're going to see all that. It's like and then how am I going to sell my house then if I ever want to? The last thing I have to say, and I know my father would have told me this, doesn't anybody have scruples anymore?
I would respectfully ask, for the benefit of the council and the public, that photographs be taken before we make our final decision of all these photographs as the foliage falls and we can get a better view and perspective on it.
Okay.
I agree.
Thank you.
Any other abutters to the project that are here tonight? Please come forward if you're here. No others?
I have a sort of a question. What's the time frame for these solar projects? They all have their tax benefits and limitations on everything. How much the National Grid can accept, how much our power stations can accept. So do you have answers on that? What kind of deadlines are solar people in general looking at? Is it ending in a couple of years, next year?
There are two parts to the question. I'll answer the first one, which I believe is the concerns, the tax incentives that surround renewable energy. The investment tax credit that was created in the 2009 Investment and Recovery Act ends on its 30% level at the end of this year. So a project must be either one, constructed, but not necessarily connected to the utility, or two, what they call safe harbor. And safe harbor means under the tax law that significant work has to take place. One, continuous significant work, and number two, a certain level of investment, not in the site work, but actually in equipment purchases or off-site equipment purchases, or also meaning that a purchase order has been placed and work is being produced to create that equipment. Then, starting in January 1st of 2020, the investment tax credit goes down to 26% of eligible costs, and eligible costs, I may add, does not include site work or the cost of interconnection. In 2021, it goes down to 24%, and then continues to go down to, I believe, and I would have to check on this, that in 3 to 4 years, it hits down to 10%, and it remains at 10% for the rest of the time. This could be changed by federal regulations. I do not believe it will be changed. So that's the timeline. This project itself would not, in any way, shape, or form, qualify for the 30% investment tax credit. We do not have enough time to do so. This project cannot be in any way, shape, or form safe harbor for the time period, because we would not do that unless we had a level of approval from this board and accordingly for the rest of the town's permitting authority. To answer your second question, which is National Grid. National Grid has a number of projects in the state of Rhode Island that are under what they call a transmittal study. And the transmittal study is simply that they are looking at projects that are 5 megawatts and over. This is 5 megawatts AC and over, to determine how these projects interact not only with the distribution system that is run by National Grid, but also the transmission system that is run throughout New England through the group called ISO, or the Interconnect Service Organization of New England. These transmittal studies are taking a great amount of time. So right now, we have projects that have been looked at, approved locally in towns that we would love to have started construction, but we have not in any way, shape, or form received our transmission study results for these projects at this time. This project would require, because it is near a 5 megawatt AC, it would require a study by ISO through the rules and regulations of the distribution. It has already received its feasibility study from National Grid for distribution. And we have applied for its, what they call the impact study, which is the second level of study for interconnection of this project. However, we do not have the impact study at this time. The feasibility study itself says that, yes, this project is feasible to interconnect to the 13.8 kilowatt, 13.8 kV line on Route 3 that is serviced by the Chaseland substation. Other than that, we have not pursued any further work on national grid studies other than because we have to wait for the impact study itself. Councilor, have I answered your question?
Thanks. You'll resume public comment. So any other abutters, folks? I know there may be some more out there perhaps. Please come forward. Having heard none, I guess one of the two guys in front. You guys keep it, Joe, again, 15 minutes or less, please.
Joe Moreau, Old Eagle Road. You know, I've been to a lot of hearings, meetings. I am so totally confused with this. I really am. Part of it is, the first hearing was November 19th, 2018, and here we are 5 or 6 hearings later. Another one that I've heard is that here's another site, we'll never see it. Question that. I wonder why we had so many hearings that were postponed. I got the answer. 3.7 acres was added to this project. Now, as far as I know, that never went to the planning board. It was never presented to the town council. This is an entirely new project. I'm not an attorney, but I get that. This is a brand new project. Notifications, certified mail. The two abutters that were spoken to were either, from what, if I understood this correctly, were potential buyers or sellers of property. So the only two abutters were trying to purchase additional property. $125 feet to the closest house, 60 feet for the inverter. Now, I know there was a spin, it's a different type of converter. I don't know how many gallons of mineral oil are in there. You know, it's a string inverter now. We shouldn't even be talking about this project. Frank, I want to take 4 minutes and I'm done. Shouldn't even be talking about this. I know why they rescheduled this. It's to get to this point. I wish I had some property there so I could sell it to them. Let's move on, please. Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I would like to, now expecting to do it today, but I would like to have the town solicitor reply to council. I know attorney-client privilege about the legal issues of adding extra acreage on something like this without apparently going to the planning board and things of that nature. I like to, now, I am not an attorney, but I would hope that he could advise the council, and not tonight, but through memo.
Why not right now?
I don't want to put him on the spot because maybe he can't. He's better than me.
Okay, I guess you can answer it, so we'll get our answer tonight. Kevin?
Legal opinions are based on development of facts. And I find myself in a position tonight of not being sure of the facts, which makes me reluctant to give a solid yes or no to this, but I can address the objection raised by Attorney Donovan. If it's true that the addition of this new parcel has changed the 200-foot radius map for butters who are entitled to notice. If that's true, and we need to determine that, but if that's true, I have a problem with proceeding with this. Because of state law, because of the town ordinances and charter and so forth. I also know that when a situation like this occurs, it's always good and useful to give counsel for the applicant the opportunity to address those issues. He may not be able to do this tonight. There were 3 binders, or 2 binders, a white binder and a black binder submitted into evidence tonight, which where representations were made that they have the new revised maps and engineerings and so forth. I haven't seen those, the council hasn't seen those. I can't make a definitive ruling that this is still on solid grounds, notice-wise and otherwise, and maybe it does need to go back to the planning board. I just can't say for sure, but I can say for sure we need to know that before we spend any more time on this.
Got a copy of the map, Kevin?
Well, I'm very reluctant to make decisions like this on the fly. And I'm being presented with, I'm not certain of the facts, but if it's a fact that there are now 4 parcels of land which are part of the project, if it's a fact that they are now seeking zone change and comprehensive, future land use map amendment to the comprehensive plan, if they're seeking those now to add a 4th lot to what the application was originally 3 lots, I would say that I have a problem with that going forward as well. So I need to satisfy myself if those things are indeed true, and if they are true, I will be ready to give a definitive opinion. I just don't like to assume, you know that old expression about people who assume things. But I would say that this is a substantial argument that's been raised, a substantial objection that has been raised, and I'd like to have a more certain view of the facts before I give a definitive opinion. But these are serious issues that are being raised tonight based upon the acquisitions of new properties, how that affects notice, and how that affects the original application for zoning classification change and change to the future land use map. So I perhaps would ask Mr. Craven to be given an opportunity to address this, if not tonight, then sometime soon, in a manner that would be releasable to the public. This doesn't need to be done in executive session or anything like that. It's just a fact-finding thing, and this is a new experience for me. In this particular way, this is developed. We've had the planning board look at this a year ago, almost a year ago. We had testimony taken on June 10th, and now the project's changed in terms of the acreage. I understand the megawatts hasn't changed, but I'm worried about the zoning ordinances and the future land use map to the comprehensive plan, and I'm worried about the notice statutes and laws. So I'm being as candid as I can. I think that these objections that have been raised bear further attention, and I don't know what the council's pleasure is.
Well, what we're going to do, we're not going to make any decisions tonight for Mr. Craven or you, right? Because you need more time to research. It's a valid point that was raised. We admitted that. We'll obviously investigate that. I want to continue with any other public, because we're here, that want to speak on this project. And Eric, you have it.
I think you should advise everyone that if they do speak, they would be waiving the defect for themselves. They can't waive the defect for all those people that weren't notified properly. And it's also, it's not just the added lots. Everyone that was notified properly was notified of a 3-lot project. Now it's 4 lots, so it's defective all the way around.
Right, so just as a point of clarification, I know you're going to do some more research. I actually have the notice in my hand. This is how this all began, this discovery on our side, is I went to get a copy of the abutters notice, and the abutters notice listed the same 3 lots we've been talking about since October 9th. It's actually been over a year. The planning board voted on October 9th to give their advisory opinion. And it's been the same 3 lots, and the abutters notice has the same 3 lots. The town council's meeting notice for tonight has the same 3 lots. The map on the back of the abutters notice has the old map, not the new map. And then looking in the hearing file, like, what's this? Letter dated October 22nd, last Tuesday, delivered and stamped to the town hall on October 24th. New map. I went to all these meetings. The meeting at the planning board, which was mischaracterized by Attorney Craven, but the meeting at the planning board had all the panels facing east-west. This one has them all facing south because of the acquisition of additional property. The planning board was taken with the the technology of the rotating east-west panels, and what the planning board actually said was, we love the technology of your project. They didn't say, gee, we'd love to approve it, but our hands are tied. What they said is, we can't approve it because it's spot zoning. We can't approve it because we can't do that to the neighbors. We can't do it because it's a residential zone. So it wasn't that they wanted relief of some kind from you to enable them to do it. It was exactly the opposite. You asked, where are all the abutters, right? 7 meetings. 8 counting the planning board. There have been 7 town council meetings scheduled and 5 have been canceled. And you want to know why no one is here tonight? Well, people clear their schedules, they take time off work. In some cases, they've shown up only to learn that, thank you all for coming, you can go home now. We're continuing the meeting, and then you all put your heads together and you find a new meeting date. That's part of the reason. It's exhausting. People have lives, they want to defend their properties, but that's part of the reason. Now, another thing, I have some stuff I want to put on the record. There was a lot of discussion earlier tonight, which frankly left me incredulous. You'd like to know what the abutters think about this project. This is a petition dated January 9th, 2019, 10 months ago. Almost every signature on here was collected before the end of January. It includes almost every single abutter, if not every single abutter, protesting this project, including Jack Yates, right? And Jack Yates got up in front of this town council in the wrong place at the wrong time at the wrong hearing because he didn't understand how this worked, as many people don't, although we're getting an education over the last year and a half. And he was distraught. He was emotional. He was spluttering. He was so angry. Okay? So I'm going to enter into the record because I didn't do this in June, I don't think, but I've given this petition to this town council on numerous occasions. It's got 168 signatures on it, and I think it has very close to 100% of all the abutters. So if you want to read them, I've told you this. So if you want to read their comments, if you want to look at their addresses, and you want to remember what has been told to you previously, you already know what the abutters think. I want to make sure that we all know what we're talking about here, right? The justification for all these projects has been, we need the revenue. We went to been to so many hearings. On September 23rd, we were at a hearing, and the question was asked of the councilors. And again, it was this, one of our councilors here volunteered that it's all about the revenue. This is 4.9 megawatts AC. When the developer presented it to the planning board, it was about the same. It was 5.2. That might have been DC for all I know, but it hasn't changed much, okay? But the revenue is on 4.9 megawatts of DC production at 5,000 per megawatt. It's 24,500, okay? Now you just had a couple of abutters here, and you've had abutters in the past, telling you that they've had a plan for their property for 40 years, and they've lived there, and they don't want this, and they never anticipated it's not fair, it's residential, on and on. And we're going to schedule more meetings to decide whether or not this town council wants to collect a lousy $24,500. That's what you're going to sell them out for all the abutters at these properties, except now for Jack Yates. I think that's criminal. There was a comment earlier tonight, and it's been made several times before. In fact, I just want to say, we can have differences of opinion, right? Everybody can have their opinions. You don't get to have your own facts, okay? So on September 23rd, I was in this room at a hearing, and one of the counselors insisted that she had not voted for the new solar ordinance, even after the town solicitor mentioned that she had. In fact, the minutes say there was a unanimous vote on January 22nd in favor of the solar ordinance that imposed the cap. And then in February, the same counselor approved those minutes, which contained her vote. So the idea that, you know, we don't have a plan, you know, is wrong, and the idea that, you know, that we don't have a solar ordinance is wrong. Now, we also have something called the comprehensive plan. And yes, the plan that was approved in February of 2018 by this very body, some of the people have changed, did have 72 acres of commercial zoning at that time. Now, I've circulated on numerous occasions that if you take just the 7 largest solar installations that were proposed, the aggregate acreage that was proposed to be converted to 1,080, to commercial acreage, commercial status is 1,086. That's approximately 15 times the amount in the comprehensive plan. There is no solar zone in the comprehensive plan. There is no comprehensive zoning regime that allows it by right on residential property. There is no mandate. And yes, that's a plan. You approved it as a body, even if some of the, if you want to change the comprehensive plan and you want to change the plan for this town, the same plan that you surveyed residents here and asked them how they felt about it, and asked them to endorse it, you worked with the planning board. The planning board gave you the plan, you got it approved by the state, and then you voted to approve it, and that's what it said. Now, the planning board has stuck to it, and they've said, this isn't complicated, residential property has certain uses, and commercial property has certain uses, and we're going to preserve the integrity of the residential zone, and almost all of these proposals, including this one, have come to you. They've been unanimously rejected, disapproved by the planning board, saying they're inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. And that's exactly what happened on this proposal on October 9th, 2018. And we're still here, okay? That is a plan. You endorsed it. You approved it. And you don't get to sit up here and look at project by project and decide if you want to carve out something else, because that is not in the plan. Right. The last thing I want to address is we've been treated to several lectures from the dais about the people that object to this violation of our plan and the coherence of it and the integrity of it. We've been treated to several lectures that we are anti-renewable energy, that we're not good citizens, that we're some sort of global warming denialists, that we're not responsible, that we don't care about the state goals. Now, some of those counselors that have made, pontificated in that manner were in the room on September 23rd when Fred Skulko, who is still here sitting right behind me, who spoke to you and told you that he had had 35 years as a teacher of environmental science. And he told you a couple things. One is he told you it takes 500 years to make an inch of topsoil. And every time they do one of these solar installations, not only do they cut down all the trees, they put the blade to the ground, they mix all the layers of the soil and effectively ruin it and render it sterile, okay? Now, I have the developer behind me telling me that there will be no environmental impact. That's an environmental impact. Cutting down trees is an environmental impact. The other thing that Mr. Skulko informed you, which you can read in many places if you're curious, is that when you cut down trees and you put up solar panels, you do not reduce carbon emissions. When you take the entire project from beginning to end, and you add up all the carbon inputs and all the carbon outputs and the loss of the trees, you don't go anywhere. Now, if you have any doubts about that, you might have gone to the solar workshop on October 1st, about a week later. and Chris Kearns from the Department of Energy, who has chaired all these solar siting workshops around the state's code. And I asked him the question, by the way, you should know, if you didn't go to the solar siting workshop, that he announced that the state has now changed their solar siting guidelines, and they're not recommending cutting down forests, and they are now emphasizing these other sorts of sites that don't have that devastating impact. But I asked him, Chris, you know, I referenced Mr. Skulka, I referenced other things that I've said. I said, Chris, you talked about the state's goals for, you know, this abstract goal for the amount of renewable energy you must install. I said, well, isn't the whole point to reduce carbon emissions? And can you stand there and tell me that when we cut down woods and put up solar panels that we are reducing carbon emissions? Can you contradict that statement? And he said, no, he could not. He said he couldn't defend it. And he said his reply, and I asked him repeatedly, and he said, no, I can't defend that. And he said, but there are other goals. It creates jobs. I said, well, is it a jobs policy or is it an environmental policy? Because if we want to create jobs, we could take a smaller amount of subsidies and have one team of men dig a hole and have another team of men come behind them and fill in the hole, and it would be less environmentally destructive. Scott Millar was there. I asked him the same question. I said, does this reduce carbon emissions? And he said, effectively, no. And I said, he said, well, I can't defend the policy, and I'm not going to say it makes sense. And I said, Scott, he's from Grossmont, Rhode Island, did you hear what you just said? You said, basically, you're not going to say that the policy of cutting down trees and putting up solar panels makes any sense, and then you started talking about the state's goals again. Isn't that the definition of insane, to have a goal that accomplishes nothing and then to turn around and talk about the urgency of accomplishing it? This whole thing is completely nuts. You are wasting so much of our time. You are violating so many ordinances and state statutes. You didn't notice this project. There is no planning board advisory opinion on this project. None of the abutters and nobody in town knows about this project. So I'm at a public hearing and looking at a project that I happen to know more about than anybody in this room other than the developers, because I happened to stop into town hall today. That's not legal. That's not an efficient use of our time. That's, in my opinion, really insulting to the planning board to take that function away from them. And I just want to say one last thing. I would love to see this purchase and sale contract. Can I ask what is the date on the purchase and sale contract?
October 6th, 2018.
Okay, so this is recent. Now, you all get the transcripts of the prior meetings, so I invite you to go to the June 10th transcript, because the developer presented there. That's the only other meeting we've had on this in front of the town council. And they stood up and said it's 29 point something acres and they have 15 acres of solar panels. I just rechecked the minutes of the planning board as I went to that meeting. They presented a project that was approximately 30 acres and it had 10.5 acres of solar panels. So mysteriously, even though they had an advisory opinion for a 10-acre project, they were back in front of you with a 15-acre project, and I asked how on earth that could be, and I didn't get an answer. Then the other thing that happened was that Attorney Craven, they were going through all of the abutters, and I was waiting for them to get to Jack Yates's property, and they never did, until finally, rabbit out of a hat, Attorney Craven pulls out a letter from Jack Yates, where Jack says, you know, philosophically, you know, gee, it's not for me to tell anyone else how to use their property. This is the same man that was distraught, that signed our petition. Suddenly, he just doesn't feel like it's right for him to tell anybody else how to use their property. And I asked the question, have you made any financial payments to Jack Yates? Do you have any financial arrangement with him? Any other, you know, thing of value? To which the answer was no. Now, I submit to you that was either thoroughly dishonest or disingenuous at best, or overly lawyered. Maybe no money had changed hands, but I refuse to believe that Jack Yates wrote his letter without having already been approached or involved in some sort of negotiations, to sell his property. So my question was very direct. Has this man changed his mind because he's been bought out and they pretended they didn't know what I was talking about and that wasn't true? And I just think that goes to the huge economy here. Like, whose side are you going to come down on? Are you going to come down on, people that just want to come in here and mine this property and, put up these panels and go away and talk about what great neighbors they are? Or are you going to defend the people that elected you and that are your residents and your friends and your neighbors and who live here and who trusted you and trusted previous town councils and built their houses and bought their land when they were 21 and waited 20 years till they could afford to build their houses? Are you going to throw them all under the bus again, like you did at Skunk Hill? Or are you finally going to recognize that they are your constituents and you already know what they think? And do your job, do your duty, do your elected duty and defend them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Rachel Morgan. I live at 604 Main Street. Chris is my neighbor. Loretta lives 2 houses down from me. Although I'm not in a butter, Chris's land was behind mine, which makes me, I was not notified at all of this project, even though I'm very close. From my back deck, I can see 95. And I'm right on Main Street. So if these people are telling me that I'm not going to be able to see the solar, that's bull. Not only am I a resident of Hopkinton, but I'm also, I go to URI for environmental management, so I'm very educated on not only renewable energy, but also other environmental problems. So one of the things that I'm for solar. I have solar panels on my roof. What I'm not for is deforestation. That's the problem here, is that you cannot replace the benefits of forest with a solar panel. Solar panels have one use, and that's solar energy. I'm not discrediting that because that's a good thing. However, forests can have wildlife habitat, they have water storage, flood abatement, carbon storage, among many other things that's not going to be replaced with the solar. We need to, I can't even stress enough how much this is not only changing my yard and the property surrounding my house, but also the entire town is changing. I put my offer in on my house 4 years ago yesterday. I looked at 68 houses before deciding on the property that I bought. 3 of the properties that I put offers in were all in Hopkinton. The only 3 offers out of 68 houses were all in Hopkinton, and that was because of the rural, country, forested land that was surrounding them. So it's incredible to me that that's all changing before my eyes in just this short amount of time. So I please urge you to rethink this and really consider the people of the town of Hopkinton.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I didn't get your last name.
Morgan?
Morton, thank you.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break for this stenographer. Thank you. Presumably hearing. Again, I did speak to the solicitor, Kevin McAllister. He does think we should probably put this on hold because we need the answer of the new additional lot being added that caught us off guard tonight. So I wanted to try and balance the public's comment also. So I guess if anybody else wants to speak, certainly come up, but it looks like we'll most likely have to continue this and investigate what's going on to even proceed. Tim, you want to?
Just on that point, so does that mean you'll be taking public comment at the next meeting?
No, it's a different now. If
Well,
you're here.
What I'm saying, if somebody doesn't speak tonight, are you saying
Yeah.
you'll take public comment?
There's always, well, if we continue the hearings, Tim, which we're going to, I assume, public comments always allowed when we continue it. It's only when we close it for a decision. So,
Thank you.
yes, Walter. Quick. Speak into the mic.
Walter Calix, Rockville, Rhode Island. I'm here to
Walter, speak into the mic, yes.
I'm here to speak, I'm not for or against solar. I'm here because property rights. No, I've been reading the papers and I get aggravated saying that I'm the third.
Walter, we can't hear you.
This thing working?
There you go.
Okay. I get aggravated saying I'm going to hurt somebody else's property rights if I want to do something on my land. I have no plans to go solar. Property rights is my thing. They're saying if I did, that would hurt their property rights. I want to bring this sales brochure for a house on. It's on 25 Francis Buffer Drive, Hopkinton, Rhode Island. It just sold for $558,000, 66 days on the market. Quite a bit higher value than the houses around it. But one of the selling points, approved for solar installation with distance setbacks, natural screening, no further development along the property for 25 years. That's a selling point. That is not hurting anybody's property values.
Thank you.
And you can look that up in your records. That be sold to the town.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else, folks? Okay, having heard none, we need a motion to continue.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing and set a date for continue the hearing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Lisa, what are your thoughts?
So you're going to continue the hearing, or are you going to?
Continue.
Date certain, or are you just?
I don't know, it's up, what are your thoughts, guys?
If I could make a suggestion, I suggested you suspend the hearing tonight without setting a date for resuming the hearing. But put a caveat in there that the developer's attorney will address the issues tonight about what's the current status of this project, what lots comprise the project, what lots they are seeking zoning relief for and future land use map use for, whether the abutters list has changed and so forth. We need to know all that information, and if Attorney Craig, and I've spoken to him a little bit during the break, if he can provide that information to me in the near future, I in turn will provide it to the council, and my suggestion would be that the council consider and deliberate that in open session at a fully advertised meeting with notice to all the former, and if there are new abutters, that they get notice to before the council takes any further action on these applications. I'd suggest that you do that instead of setting a new date tonight.
Okay, thanks.
I rescind my motion.
What concerns me is that there's a sentiment in this town, and I have reservations. I just want to say in the record that whether or not the planning board should be consulted because the proposals change, and whether or not crucial for the planning board to weigh in on this different proposal than the original. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor.
I second that. I think we need to have another suspension. I think that we need to totally start over. I'm sorry. We need to start, that the planning board needs to be involved in it needs to go to the planning board, so let's start the process.
All right, so we have a motion to continue, a second of that motion.
And so we need to vote.
She rescinded. I did not get a rescind, saying indication that Sylvia Thompson was going to rescind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we start all over again with a new motion.
Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we suspend this hearing and that we make the determination to start over.
Second.
A motion made and seconded, and that's with no date, right? That's with no date?
Correct.
Right. Motion
I have a question. So you're trying to suspend it and start all over, but you're not doing what Kevin has requested?
No, starting all over to me means they have to start with the application, they have to notify them, they have to go to planning,
So,
etc.
I understand, so that's what you're saying, you're not saying Kevin said.
We'll let the attorney determine whether they have to start over again or re-advertise, and we still have to determine if the 200-foot of our notice radius has been affected, and that's really the crux. But anyway, we've got a motion made and seconded to continue.
She's not, it's not. It is a complete stop. It's not that it's a complete suspension, it's a stop. So, and it has been.
Kevin, make it quick, please.
Yeah, I'm going to make it quick. I think I can accomplish what everybody seems to be looking for. I think what we can do is have a motion to table this application for tonight. And if that's voted on, it will be understood that Attorney Craven will provide me with the information, and it cannot be brought back again until we report to the council of all these facts, including whether this needs to go back to the planning board. So my recommendation is we just have invite a motion to table.
Mr. President, I make a motion to take that at the table.
You have to rescind first.
And I withdraw my second, and I make a motion, Mr. President, to table this matter.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table this matter. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Barbara.
I move we adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.